Welcome to STEPS, a staff training program run by the Office of Graduate Research at Flinders University. Welcome to this STEP session, Selecting Examiners. Hello, I'm Tara Brabazon. Now, research higher degrees involve an array of policies and procedures, governance matters, regulation matters, quality assurance matters. But the art and the craft of doctoral candidatures emerge through examination. Examination is the moment in doctoral education. It determines both the success of our students and also the reputation of our universities. So it matters a lot. So today's step is going to offer some ideas for your consideration about how you select examiners for your higher degree students. And look, I will start with compliance matters, but I intend to move very quickly to think about excellence in the selection of our examiners. And I present 7 maxims for your consideration. Let's start with the first one. Examiners must not maintain a current professional relationship with any member of the supervisory team. So, examiners must be independent. That means they cannot maintain a professional relationship with you that may impact on their independence and on their impartiality. Now, we have proxies, I'm sure they're inelegant, but we have proxies for this impartiality. You must not have written with the examiner in the last 5 years. You must not have held a grant with the examiner in the last 5 years. Now, these are pretty easy professional relationships to track. The other relationships that are a little bit more difficult to find are when you've worked with the examiner in some form, particularly, say, in a previous job. Or obviously, and yes, this has happened a lot, a supervisor picks their former supervisor as an examiner, or a supervisor picks their former students as an examiner. 2. Examiners and supervisors must not have a personal relationship. Now, this can be a close friendship, social relationship, sexual relationship. Basically, this is a relationship of intimacy in some form. Now, if that intimacy in some form exists, then that person cannot be an examiner. And as a word of warning, and I do have many examples of this, but one of my personal horror stories is I've seen a supervisor in a particular field, the sociology of sport, pick a great friend of his of some 30 years. He picked a mate to supervise his student. So picked a good friend to supervise the student, and then this supposed friend completely had a meltdown and savaged this student in an oral examination, because the supervisor and the examiner weren't good friends. The examiner hated him. 3, be international. At its best, the higher degree is a global qualification, and we need to ensure that quality assurance is in place. One of the gifts at the moment of Flinders not having an oral examination, and I think we will soon, but one of the gifts of us not having an oral examination is that we can select examiners from anywhere in the world. And therefore, I will never understand that when we can choose the best scholars from anywhere in the world, a Flinders staff member chooses someone from an Adelaide university. So we need to really see this clearly. You can choose from the best scholars anywhere in the world, and you decide on an Adelaide-based examiner in Australia. So all I'd ask is, please, respect this remarkable global higher education system in which we have the privilege to serve, and allow our students to stretch into the world through their examination. 4, go senior in your selection. I am a big believer in supporting early career researchers and mid-career researchers. They are our future. They are the generation that will replace us. So their care, we need to care and respect and demonstrate much compassion and support to these remarkable colleagues. I have a caveat, however. The only area where I get a bit worried about selecting early career researchers is in doctoral examination. Because at Flinders University we only have 2 examiners, a lot of systems have 3 examiners, but because we have 2 examiners, it makes the selection of those examiners even more important. And if we get it wrong, it can very easily tumble into a divergent examination situation. Now, when I used to select 3 examiners in different international systems, I would always select at least 1 early career researcher or mid-career researcher, because you can take a bit more of a risk. You've got 3 and you've got 2 against 1 if something goes wrong. But if we have 2, then an uneven result can have a profound consequence. Now, the research shows the more inexperienced the scholar, the harder they are as an examiner. The argument being that because early career researchers haven't got the range of examination and reading of theses within their professional experience, they don't know the standard required to pass. So basically they have a data point of 1, their own thesis, by which to assess anything they read. And I'm sure we all remember when when dinosaurs roamed the earth and we submitted our thesis. In those first couple of years after we submitted that thesis, we thought it was the greatest thesis that's ever been written in the world. And it's only as a senior scholar, when you've read hundreds, thousands of theses, that we understand the context around research and understand a little bit more the standards that are required. Point 5, recognise the paradox of geography. The toughest examiners in the world are from Aotearoa, New Zealand. Kia ora. Hi to all the Kiwis listening. Toughest examiners in the world, Kiwis. Second toughest examiners in the world are Australians. Now, there's many reasons why Kiwis and Australians are the toughest examiners. One argument I often use is because these 2 nations came to oral examinations late, and they rarely conduct oral examinations in other nations, it means they didn't gain that on-the-job training that happens with intensity when you're in multiple oral examinations. So you are literally having to compare yourself and negotiate your standards against somebody else in real time in a room. That's what an oral examination is. And so because that on-the-job training did not happen, it means that we're much more outliers in the international examination system. Now, the most favourable examiners are from North America, the United States and Canada. So as I always say, when we are thinking about how to select examiners, we need to manage and think about the relationship between geography and seniority. So if you select an early career researcher from Australia or Aotearoa, New Zealand, then that will be a challenging selection. 6, expertise is everything, but watch for the extreme closeness to the topic. As we all know, expertise is everything in examination. If you haven't got expertise, you should not be examining. But an area to watch is in very bespoke or specific or small fields that everyone knows each other, and they're often pretty ruthless fields as well. So examiners in these small fields can eat the young of their discipline. They can stop the development or particularly hamper the development of great students. So I always respect the scholars who move around a bit in disciplinary terms, gives them some space, gives them some perspective. So absolutely examiners need expertise, but just make sure they're not so close that they're almost terminally picky. 7, digitally stalk your examiners. Now, please note I stated digitally stalk, not stalking more generally. So my first most important foundation when I'm looking to select an examiner, number one point I'm looking for is, are they a decent, ethical person? We look for all sorts of proxies of someone being a decent, ethical person, but I spend a lot of time going through Twitter feeds, Facebook, Instagram. I also do a search through blogs looking for their name. And yes, I have found some remarkable things. Wow. Through these searches. So what we need in an examiner is just firstly, are they a decent, ethical human? Now, I think we all know some truly brilliant scholars who are truly dreadful human beings. And when these dreadful human beings are unpredictable, I would argue that makes them too problematic to be an examiner, because we literally cannot predict that they're going to manage this situation with care and decency and respect. So colleagues, I really thank you for spending time with me today, looking at this STEP session. And the selection of examiners matters a lot. And we talk about a lot of things in our universities that don't matter 1% as much as the selection of examiners for a PhD. Every examiner we select assists our student's career, but also confirms Flinders University's excellence, achievement, accountability, and transparency. We build our international reputation one examiner at a time. And thank you for sharing your time with me. Thank you for listening to this STEPS training program on behalf of the Office of Graduate Research at Flinders University.